7 o'clock, I'll call the January 14th, 2020 Wood County Board of Supervisors meeting to order. I'll note for the record we do have a quorum with all members present. This evening we have Pastor Jeremy Forrest of the Restoration Church to offer an invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I would ask Supervisor Cook to, as a U.S. Army veteran, if he would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Everybody will rise.
Appreciate you having me here to pray. I won't take much time at all, but we recognize that you have a very serious job at Restoration Church, and we certainly will be praying for you. Serving in government isn't always a thankful position. You're not always going to get a lot of applause from people, but our church wanted to make it very clear that we will be praying for each of you, and we certainly appreciate the job that you're doing. So we have just a few little books here for each of you, and it is a Bible study guide that just tells you a little bit about life situations, whatever you're going through. There's a chapter and a verse in there, and we'd like to give those to you. So if you'll permit me to hand these out, I'd do that.
Thank you, Mr. Farman.
All right, let's pray. Heavenly Father, we come before you today, Lord, with a grateful heart that we live in this country, and God, with a grateful heart that you allowed us to live in this community. Father, I want to thank you, God, that even at our very worst, Lord, our government is so much better than the governments around the world. God, I beg you right now, Father, that you would give the men and women on this board wisdom. Wisdom beyond their own understanding, God, wisdom beyond their own experiences. God, I pray, Father, everything that is done tonight will be done decently and in order. God, I ask you, Father, that your blessings would be on their families. God, your blessings would be on their homes and on this community. Father, whenever it's all said and done, God, help us to remember the God of heaven who gave us life through Jesus. I ask you, Father, that you'd be glorified in everything that happens. In Jesus' name we do pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first item on the agenda is rules and procedures and meeting calendar for 2020. You've all received a copy of the rules and procedures along with the meeting calendar. Mr. Barrett, you want to summarize?
Mr. Chairman, following some of the comments that I received from the board, did make some changes to the previous years, basically. If I can get to the areas, the regular meetings will still be held on the second Tuesday and the fourth Tuesday, with the exception of 2 meetings for June 30th for year-end closeout and Thursday, November 12th. But that both meetings will now begin at 6 p.m. In the evening. That is the primary change to the agenda or to the rules of procedure. Be glad to answer any questions that anyone has, but I think that's got the majority of it, or at least the biggest change. Oh, the other thing with supervisor's time is on both, it's on here to be approved to be on both agendas, whereas in the past it had only been on the fourth Tuesday agenda.
I'll entertain a motion to adopt the rules and procedures and the meeting date for 2020.
So moved.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Do a roll call vote. Mr. Smith?
Aye.
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 Passes unanimously. 7-0. Sorry, my brain wants to. Next is citizens' time.
Mr. Chairman, I would request that you also adopt, even though it's in there, that you all adopt this calendar, the meeting calendar, that's in the board package for 2020.
Okay.
And it does show the holidays on there as well on the calendar.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make that motion.
Have a motion to adopt the meeting calendar for 2020, second. Have a motion to second. Any discussion? Do a roll call vote, Mr. Terry.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Calendar passes. Anything else?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Citizens time, we have 3 citizens signed up. First is Miss Linda Meyer. Miss Meyer?
Well, you guys jump-started this. With our two-way meeting that we had in November, there were a lot of people out there wanted to know why we were having the meeting at 9 o'clock on a Tuesday morning, because most of them couldn't participate. So I'm really, really glad you did it, because I also have a list of almost 60 people that were outside that day that were interested in having the second meeting in the evening again instead of 9 o'clock in the morning. So I'm really, really pleased that you guys did that, because hopefully more people such as these will come out at that point in time. Also, in addition to that, we were talking about public hearings, and the general consensus was that we, the general public, is interested in having public hearings, citizens' time a half hour beforehand for questions and answers by a knowledgeable representative concerning the public hearing. And that would make everything a little bit more transparent, and people would get a little bit more information. So I don't think you need these petitions anymore, but it's certainly appreciated. Thank you.
Mr. Charles Miller.
How are you guys? My name is Charles Miller. Like I said, I'm the chairman of the board of directors at With County Rescue Squad. I believe I know about all of you guys. The reason for me coming to this meeting tonight is we have a substantial amount of money tied up in a rescue unit, Rescue 54. And what I mean by being tied up is it's being held as collateral. It's roughly $51,000. And it's our savings. So my board wanted me to come request to see if we could have that money released back to us, considering that it's a county-owned truck registered to the county. And with that additional money, if we do get it back, will help us out greatly. And I don't know if you guys need more information on this, but I also have another board member with me, Mr. Paul Castle, who could probably give better details on everything like that. But like I said, we just came here to request that money be released.
Thank you, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Miller.
Next, we have David Jones. Burner on up here. We were a piece of gum, but somebody stole all mine.
That's all right. My name's David Jones. I live here in Whitfield, 1235 West Main Street, Whitfield. I was in here about last year sometime, mentioning a problem we have within Wythe County, Pulaski County, several of the surrounding counties. I plan on making a 150-mile radius from this town to try to stop the problem we have. I'm a business owner. My brother's a business owner. Know a lot of business owners. County jurisdiction does not have anything to regulate the major flow of tax evasion that's happening. You've got families that I can go open a business in the county, just for instance, go draw welfare, food stamps, Medicaid, the whole nine, get every type of government assistance and be a leech while running a lucrative business. The county jurisdiction has the loophole. Town jurisdiction, that's not possible. I run my business in town limits, and if I don't renew my license, they send a paper to take me to court to make me renew. Basically, I mean, there's just nothing in the county. I've researched. I've found a lot of people just running businesses without doing anything right. The county of Pulaski said they have the same problem. Marion has a major problem. Whitfield has a major problem. Pulaski County is waiting on y'all. Marion County is waiting on y'all to see what y'all are going to do. The town of Whitfield already implemented the business sticker. And there needs to be something done. I could present it to House of Delegate, send it over to the legislator, Senate, and governor, but I don't have faith in our governor. So I think that would be a waste of my time. So I'm going to continue going to each town and county board meeting, hoping that y'all will do something. Because it's not a fair playing field. I pay a lot of money to go out here and do business. County jurisdiction, what do you pay? Absolutely nothing. You don't have to. Because I call down here and I check and see who is paying to play. Very few are. Very few. And I've pointed this out over and over and over. And I'm going to continue pointing this out. And Marion told me they don't care about it. They don't mind that people evade taxes and draw food stamps at the same time. But that was just one of the board members, not all of them. The other guy, most of the people on that board does care, but just one doesn't. And it's just sad to see this continue to go on. And y'all do have the power to do something about it. And I just hope that the towns and communities will come together. And I'm not just saying just this town and just this county. I'm reaching out to everyone and doing your legwork to get these towns and counties to fix this problem. But I can't do it if you don't do anything here. And I was supposed to be in a retreat tonight to mention that, but I wanted to start with the county because that's going to be more important for my journey, is to have a town and a county to fix the problem. That's it.
Thank you. We had some people come in after we started. Does anybody else want to participate in citizens' time? Hearing none, I'll close citizens' time. Next on the agenda is payment of invoices. Entertain a motion to pay the invoices.
So moved.
Have a motion to have a second.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion or any invoice that any board member wants to pull out? Hearing none, do a roll call vote. Mr. Smith?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
And motion passes 7-0. Next is the minutes of the previous meetings, both December the 27th, 2019 and the January 7th, 2020 meeting. Have a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Have a second.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion, changes, or corrections? Hearing none, do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
I'll abstain, I was not present.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0, one absentation. Excuse me. Old business. Proposed water rate increase. Mr. Bear, would you?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
For the new board members.
Yes, back in December, at our night meeting, we had a public hearing on a proposed water increase. At that point in time, the action was tabled to the day meeting, and at that point in time, the action was tabled again until tonight's meeting. At this point in time, obviously, we have 3 new board members that have come on board since that time frame. I would, let me first say, water rates are something we do need to look at and we do need to adjust. As we talked about, we do have a negative variance on our water accounts right now. But I think my recommendation would be to just to table this at this point in time, pull this back, talk to, as we form our new water committee tonight, have our water committee look at it, have this board look at it, and then look at another public hearing or setting a rate increase in the future for consideration if that's how this board wishes to proceed. So that's my recommendation on that, Mr. Chairman. But I'll be glad to answer any questions that anyone has, because I do know that there's been some discussion. There are some individuals that know we have some areas that we need to expand water to. And we do need to be looking at this carefully to put ourselves in a good position for the future of our water.
Anybody have any comment?
I think it's probably a good idea to go with his recommendation. I would feel better about it, you know, we all just came together on January 1st. I haven't had enough time to talk to each of you, and I'd like to do that too. And also see the recommendation of the water committee.
Yeah, and I know I've got some questions as well that I'd like to bring up as the board.
I'm not ready to vote on it.
Anybody else?
Well, I have something. I have a lot of people in my area that wants water, needs water, can't borrow no money. So I don't know what to tell them, just, I'm sorry. You know, sometimes that don't get it done, but that's the best we can do right now. When we go back to the committee, maybe we can figure out some way to pay for it. I don't know.
Mr. McRoberts, I think for me, I know there's a lot of people in our district, my district as well, it's needing water. I know Roland, we had talked about it, some other areas. One of the things that I would like to know is exactly what you said. Well, I think we need to let everybody know it's not only having a deficit with the water budget, but we need to raise these taxes to get further grants. Or the water rates, I'm sorry, not taxes. So that's a question that I wanted to talk about.
Well, and I agree with what Mr. Mayor said. We have to make it to where it's at least breaking even, because there's a lot of people in this county that it's, once we start taking money out of the general fund, that it's not fair to them because they live in either the town of Gertrude or the town of Whitman. They'll never have county water. County water, for the most part, will never benefit them. I don't have a problem with commercial rates. Since I've sat on this board, my problem's always been with the mandatory hookup amount. And the federal government says that we have to have a mandatory connection ordinance, but they don't say how much we have to charge. And that's always been my holdup, so. I agree. I think at this point we'll send it back to the water committee and let them come up with. And I would like to see not only one recommendation, I would like to see a couple and maybe some numbers behind those, how much it would increase revenue. And let's make an informed decision instead of just vote to increase it 5%.
Agreed.
Do we need to take any formal action?
Do not need to take any action, just if you will refer it back to the water committee like you just did, I think that's fine.
Do you have anything else under old business?
No, sir, I do not.
New business enterprise zone extension. Mr. Barrett, you'll.
Yes, this is good news, just no action needed, but basically we have an enterprise zone for our new board members is basically areas throughout the county that have been designated through the Department of Housing and Community Development through the Commonwealth of Virginia as areas where we're trying to promote business. Obviously, our industrial park is in the enterprise zone. We have areas along the exits in the enterprise zone. Our exit 77 development area is an enterprise zone. And they can get job creation grants and real property grants for improvements in those areas. There's also enterprise zone in downtown Whitfield as well. And we may have extended, I don't know if Mr. Manley's here yet or not, extend some in the rural retreat. Yes, sir. The downtown area also. So those areas are throughout the county. And we still have some land held back or some acreage held back that we can put into an enterprise zone as needed. The good news is we just received this that it has been awarded to renew it for another 5 years, so that helps Mr. Manley with economic development recruitment efforts. So just passing on the information.
Does anybody have any questions about this? All right, next under new business is Apex Barn Project, change order number 1. Mr. Barry?
Mr. Chairman, yes, when we placed out the bids for the Apex utility barn, one of the line items on that bid item was a rock clause that allowed for a certain amount of rock. When you are doing excavation and construction equipment, you never know what you're going to run into on that, so you put an estimate in there for that amount. They did run into rock, and the rock exceeded the estimated amount within our contract. So what you have before you is a change order proposed to address the rock that they ran into. Mr. Kinser's with us today, and he can give you a little bit of information about that.
Prepared a little short presentation that shows basically what happened. The corner of the barn, it shows in rock there in a little black spot. We looked at trying to move the barn around the footprint of the barn. The problem was this is after the picture of the rock, and it's right in the corner. So if we move the footer, then we'd have to redig all that footer. And even if we shifted the barn just a little bit one way or the other, we'd also probably get into either more rock or, end up impeding the turning radius for the trucks getting in and out. Anyway, if you see the rock, it's pretty exciting rock. This one was hammered out, that's no charge. This was one of the peer proof. So this is our thought process. To shift the building west or south, if we shift towards more rock, to shift the building to the north or east. To the east, we'd have to relocate the existing road. To the north, we'd have to tighten the turn radius and would possibly not allow some of the longer trucks and trailers to narrow edges on one side. To shift the building anyway, would mean probably rejig part of the footer. And some of the estimates, try to do it ourselves. If we ran an excavator and a rock number, it exceeded what the change order would be. So we decided to go ahead and try to get the change order.
Now, the amount of rock in the contract was 10 cubic yards, and
Right.
this was 18 cubic yards. Is that correct?
Right, and that, I think it was a little bit of favor. I went out there and estimated myself, I estimated about 23 cubic yards, so I think they actually estimated a little bit less.
So basically, what you've got is just a change order for, and this falls within the contingency. As you know, we have borrowed the money to go with it. This falls within the contingency of it. And in fact, the rock that is there is actually going to help us out. We've got an area that the rock needs to go in, and that will keep us from having to go down and purchase rock from Salem Stone to go in there.
Yeah, we had 2 or 3 4 inches of rain down there this weekend. I think we probably had more than that. The rain gauge was on the pole, and it may not call it all. But, we had a washout right next to the footer, as you can see, and it's really close to the rock, so we'll go with trim an excavator over there and take this rock and repair the area to actually save quite a bit of money.
So, Mr. Chairman, staff's recommendation is to approve this change order, that it was a cheaper alternative and was based off of the rock clause. When you bid it out, you put an amount in there. If we'd have put 20 cubic yards in there as the estimate, we'd have been 2 yards under, and we wouldn't be having the change order. Would have been a deduct off of it. The bid price would have been higher. But this is just what you, instead of leaving it open and not knowing what the change was going to be, you put the bid price in there. So they bid the price per cubic yard to do the rock removal, and this just takes the actual amount that they did in that process.
So, Mr. Barry, you had mentioned this was coming, this was part of the contingency money, so that was already built into the 732?
This is 732 was the contract amount, but we keep back the contingency amount just to hold for any unexpected change orders or things that you run into with this.
So you already have that money?
Yes.
All right. Mr. Bayer, it shows, looking at the contract amount, 732,437. The change order is 4,000. It's now 736,437. So is that $4,000 an increase to our taxpayer?
What you all, what you've already got with this barn is, the county has already borrowed $1 million, that we will be drawing down for this barn. And you also already have $200,000 from the tobacco commission that goes towards it. So you've got $1.2 million to go towards it. So 732 is the drawdown for the barn. But basically, when we do a budget, we usually put back about a 10% amount just within our internal budget to keep for contingencies when they come up. Now, other than this, I don't hope that we don't run into anything else. The only other thing that we could run into is when we're putting in drain lines, you could run into rock at that point in time. But the good news is there, we do have a fixed price for the rock that we've got to put in. But you know, it's pretty much a metal building, and after this, there shouldn't be a lot of change orders associated with it. But it's no additional tax. It's coming out of $1 million that's already been borrowed.
But it's still an additional 4,000 being spent.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. You've got $1.2 million to spend. You've got to draw down that $1 million in expenditures. So what we do have, you know, basically you got 1.3 million when you add the $100,000 in for the bathrooms and stuff in there as well. You got $1.3 million. You've got roughly 800,000 contingency here, so you got about $500,000 left. On my desk that Mr. Kinzer has prepared for the Buildings and Grounds Committee, after you all formed the Buildings and Grounds Committee, is a list of the capital improvements and items to be addressed at the Apex Center. Now that the $1 million has been borrowed, and that we've got this amount taken out for you all to decide what additional items should be drawn down out of those funds and be progressed out there, and which items should not be.
So what if this does not pass? What if?
Well, we'd have to go back with the contractor and talk about the entire process.
Right.
And where it's going. But I understand your question.
Yeah,
but
I mean, I know stuff comes up, and I hate that it happens. But you know, when I have to represent everyone in my area, and when majority of people tell me don't spend another dime, I have to ask these questions, you know. And I know there's a time frame, but I hate that it was done. And I'm sure there's a reason behind it, but I hate that it was done before we could discuss it, because it puts me in a hard situation. I don't want to spend any more money on it, but we've already spent a lot of money on it, so that's why I ask the questions.
Yeah, and I think too, for me, I know when they built the Apex Center, the original building, was there any core drilling done to know what was there?
Well, when they built the original Apex Center, they had Baker Construction was the first contract that had come in and done the base of the entire site, which included this parking lot area that they had layered down, and then also where the building was. There was some core drillings that were done out there. We did end up on the building on the western corner of the building there, ending up running into some rock and also a void in there that had to be filled as well. So.
Who's the project manager leading it? Would that be you?
Our project manager, I mean, it all comes back to me. Mr. Kinzer is the one that is out there daily on the site working with the project manager for the company.
Because I'm in the same boat as Ms. Lawson. You know, a lot of people are saying we've already spent a lot of money, which we have. And then when you see $732,000 that we've already invested in that, and then another I know, you know, $4,000 compared to 732 is nothing, but
Yeah.
if you keep nickel and diming, I mean, we're going to get beat up on it. So that's where I'm coming from.
Well, I understand, and I realize that for y'all's first meetings, I don't like having a change order, but this is just, it came up during the time frame they were doing the excavation in the month of December, getting all this done, and originally had hoped to stay under 10 cubic yards, so there would not be a change order as we were looking at it. As they got into it and digging more, it exceeded the 10 cubic yards. So, but you know, the reason why it's before you all now is it is a change order item. and I don't want to wait to the end. I want these coming up as they're happening. In this situation, change orders that come up if decided we want to change the roof of the building or something like that. You don't go ahead and do that. You come back and get the change order. When you're doing rock excavation, you never know whether you're going to get 5 cubic yards or 10 cubic yards. So you're just beating out the rock in the process, and you calculate what the amount of it is that you've got. And that's the only reason why this one has come through on the change order.
So I do feel a little bit better that you had contingency. I was worried
Yeah.
if we had a project with no contingency.
Basically, contingency wise, and what we've got, the board has borrowed, the county has borrowed $1 million. And we will, be working, we need to work on our budget of our other expenditures of how we're going to draw that down to go with it. So yes, there is money available there to cover this.
My thought is if we can save money, why spend the whole $1 million if we can build it there? I mean, it's a struggle. This is a project that was forced down the citizens' throats to begin with. It should have went before the citizens, before this thing was ever built. Now they forced the barn down everybody's throat, and now we're stuck. And I promised the people when I ran, and I'm a man of my word, and I may be on the island by myself, but I will not support that, because I told the people that supported me I would not do it. Though enough money's been spent down there, and I refuse to spend another nickel except when it comes to the debt service we're obligated to pay.
Mr. Kemp, and I know you've inherited this whole project, all of with the barn that's currently, the layout of the barn that is being built is how many square feet?
The barn's 32,000 square feet.
If the former board had built the 16,000 square foot barn that was originally sold to the public, could we move it to one?
You're already in contract with the.
No, this is hypothetical. Had we, the previous board, decided to build a 16,000 square foot barn, would this be a problem? I guess is a better way to ask it.
The footprint of that barn is smaller, and you could have had more room to move on the site than what is currently with the 32,000. We're pretty much stretching from the north road to the southern road. So yes, I would say it could be. Now, if you started here and hit the rock, you may move back further on there.
In this part of the world, as you will know, if you ever, if you Progress Park 20 years ago was nothing but single. Okay. This is karst topography. There's piers, pinnacles. You can do, I've done jobs where we bore and don't hit any rocks, and then when you start to excavate, you get all those piers. This here surprised me a lot. With a smaller barn, sure you wouldn't have hit it, maybe, but there was rock sticking out of the ground on this site already. So I'm sure that's why the rock falls was stuck in there. The problem is where the rock was sticking out of the ground, it was just boulders. This in the corner, we didn't see that coming. The way I understand it, previously there was 2 or 3 barns proposed. And then if you did 3 barns, I don't know what the square footage of it was. The cost would be more because you got all those walls. And building one bigger barn was probably a good decision. Moving it up into this parking lot out of the existing gravel lot, I think was a good decision. But when we placed it, when I placed it on the site, I twisted it around to try to get longer trailers and trucks would be able to get in and out of, because it is such a big barn, it takes up a large area there. So I think we got it in the right location. It's just part of, it's part of construction in this part of the world. I don't mean to bore you too much, but Volvo, I've worked there 15 years. I don't know how many rocks we blasted out. I don't know how many caves we did. Just like this last slide here, nobody saw the 3 inches of rain come. It overwhelmed the ditches and the berms above the site, and then basically washed out the wood there. So it's just part of construction, especially in the winter time.
Coming from the private sector, are you able to work with the contractor, value engineers, and save $4,000 or more?
Probably can, I'd have to look at it. It's a fairly simple structure, but there's some things we might be able to change. One thing we talked about is it's calls for like a French drain around it, but obviously we're not gonna be able to put a French drain unless we beat a lot more rock out around that corner. But we can do some things, and Steve and I talked about rainwater harvesting, and we can take the water out of the gutters, put it in the tank, and then use that water to wash the animals and stuff, or water the grass, or whatever you need to do there. Save water and then not have to excavate that out, but still take care of your stormwater as well, so you don't wash, make everything muddy and move over. So we can probably say that. I'll have to look at it.
Thank you. Anybody else? I'll entertain a motion to approve change order number 1.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make that motion.
Have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? That being said, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Smith?
No.
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 Yes.
Yes.
No.
Motion fails 5-2. Next on the agenda is appointments for 2020. Mr. Baird, how would you want to proceed with this?
You've got it on your board package. I also handed out a package in front of you. I would, any way you want to, we can go down them alphabetically, or if you want to go through all the board or the chair appointed committees first and get those out of the way, and then come back and start doing the board appointments.
Probably easier just to go from the top. Alcohol Safety Action Program, ASAP. Currently, it's Sheriff Dunnigan. I think I spoke to him, he doesn't mind being reappointed. Do we need to vote on each one of these?
On the board appointed one, you need a motion to appoint these members to it. So, and you can, like in this, if Sheriff Dunnigan and one of your board members, you can nominate both of you all to be appointed and vote on it at one time.
I don't mind serving on base app, I know what they do. I don't mind serving sheriff on that one.
I'll make a motion, we approve the 2 of you then.
A second.
Motion is second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Have Appalachian Regional Exposition Authority have 2 slots open. Does anybody have any nominations?
I'd like to nominate Charlie Lester. I think Charlie's what he board, wanted from the board.
No, he was not, but he did attend a lot of the
He
meetings.
attended a lot of meetings, I know. So he knows partially what's going on down there. He would be a good fit.
Need a second.
Do what?
You need a second.
Yeah, I see.
I do.
Have a motion and a second to appoint Charlie Lester. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
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 Anybody else for Appalachian Regional Exposition Center?
I'll make a motion that we appoint Miss Betsy Gilman.
I'll second that motion.
Have a motion and a second to appoint Ms. Gillen to the Apex Authority. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Next is Budget Committee.
Mr. Chairman, just for verification, was Mr. Lester approved or not approved on your vote there? Is it no? I think it's no.
It was a no.
Okay. Okay. So you're leaving one vacancy right now?
Does anybody help with anybody?
Anyone interested?
Budget committee is chair appointed. I'll appoint Mr. Smith, Mr. Terry, and myself to the budget committee. Buildings and grounds, Supervisor McRoberts, Mr. Cook, and myself to the buildings and grounds committee. And next is building code appeals board, and Mr. Bear, I'd ask you to explain that one, because
Yeah.
Mr. McRoberts can't remember.
The Building Code Appeals Board has not functioned too much in recent years, but basically you have to have a board approved if someone comes and appeals a building official's decision on this. Our building official has talked with all of these members. They are all willing to serve except Mr. Newberry, who had already announced his resignation when he left the town from this board. But Mr. Donnie Repass has indicated that he would be willing to serve on here, so I would recommend the 4 names listed on the top of the list and Mr. Donnie Repass, Mr. Chairman.
Have a motion to appoint the former members and add Mr. Repass in place of Mr. Newberry on the Building Code Appeals Board.
I make that motion, Mr. Chair.
Have a motion, have a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chief Local Elected Official Board, New River Mount Rogers Workforce Investment Board.
Technically, by default, that is you, Mr. Chairman, but in previous years, it has been appointed to other members.
Anybody interested in serving on that, Ms. Lawson?
That I'm serving on.
Sorry. I was thinking.
Were you thinking? I would if it wasn't during the day, I'm sorry.
Well, I'll do it. I'm sure y'all nominate.
I'll make a motion to appoint cheese.
I second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations. Crossroads Regional Industrial Facility Authority.
Mr. Chairman, I would request reappointment to that.
Since I don't get to do this much, I'll make a motion we reappoint Mr. Baird.
Second.
Have a motion and a second, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations. Crossroads Regional Industrial Facility Authority alternate.
Cryfa does not meet very often, normally less than twice a year if everything is going well. It could change if another project comes up to go under Cryfa, but it's usually not a very long meeting.
It's alternate, I'll take it, 'cause I have Mr. Baird
I'll make that motion.
I second.
Motion and a second, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? District 3 Governmental Cooperative, I currently serve as alternate. They meet in the evening at 7 p.m. I don't mind taking that position unless somebody else wants it.
I'll make a motion we nominate Mr. Vaughn.
Have a motion, and a second.
Second.
Motion and second, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There is an alternate position, for District 3. Like I said, they meet, the third Thursday, odd month, at 7 p.m.
I'll make a motion for Mr. Cook.
Motion for Mr. Cook, have a second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution is approved. Economic Development Committee is the chair appointed. I'll appoint Mr. Terry, Mr. Smith, and Mr. Cook. Fire and Rescue Committee, Supervisor McRoberts, Ms. Lawson, and Stacy Terry. The Insurance Committee is board appointed. I assume everybody on here is agreed to.
I would just recommend reappointing all of those, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make that motion.
Have a motion to reappoint all the members of the Insurance Committee. Have a second. Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The JIDA Authority, Mr. David Carpenter, terms up. Mr. Bear, I assume Mr. Carpenter.
Mr. Carpenter is eligible and is willing to serve another term, and I recommend reappointment of Mr. Carpenter.
I'll make that motion.
I'll
Have a
second.
motion and a second. All those in favor of reappointing Mr. Carpenter, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Juvenile Detention Committee, 4-year term. Mr. Bear, I don't know when they meet.
I do not know when they meet either. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, did you say you didn't know?
I don't know when they meet, sir.
Is anybody interested in serving on that? Or nominating somebody to serve?
I'll do it.
Have a nomination for Ms. Lawson. Second.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
See, I know when y'all get quiet, y'all expect me to pay.
Someone's broke the screen so we can see.
And apparently I skipped JPSA.
I think we all do except for two.
JPSA, Joint Public Service Authority.
Meets the third Wednesday, Mr. Chairman, at 7 p.m.
For right now.
Anybody interested? Mr. Terry?
I'll do it.
That's the one I thought I was volunteering for, but it's okay.
Do you want it, Ryan?
No, you have it.
Somebody make a motion.
I'll make the motion for Mr. Terry.
Have a motion for Mr. Terry, have a second. Have a motion and a second to appoint Mr. Terry to the JPSA. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
You gotta look at them all, you said.
Tomorrow.
Congratulations.
Tomorrow at 7, Coy.
Yeah. Lead Mines Rescue Squad Board of Directors, we have 3.
Yeah, Mr. Armbrister has given us, he resigned from the board as of December 31st.
Miss Maid and Mr. Byers, interested in being reappointed.
Maybe today. I do have a name for, they take James Long's, Mr. Jeff Wright. He was, used to be an advocate, I don't know if he still is.
Have a motion to appoint Mr. Jeff Wright to Lead Mines Rescue Squad Board of Directors. Have a second.
Second.
Mr. Chairman, would you go ahead and add the other 2 members for reappointment also?
Reappoint Teresa Maid and Donald Byers. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It's okay.
Any opposed?
No, I had another name, but it's okay. Oh. No, it's no big deal. I think Jeff will do a great job, so it's no big deal.
Next up is the liaisons, with your chair appointed. Clerk of Circuit Court, I'll appoint Mr. Terry, Commissioner of Revenue, Ms. Lawson, Commonwealth Attorney. I'm currently the liaison, I'll reappoint myself. Planning Commission, Ms. Lawson, she does an excellent job, thank you, Ms. Lawson.
No problem.
Recreation Commission, Mr. Smith. School Board Liaison, Mr. Terry. Sheriff's Office Liaison, Mr. Smith. And Treasurer Liaison, Mr. McRoberts. Mount Rogers Community Service Board. We have one appointment. I've had an individual contact me interested in serving on it. I don't know the pleasure of the board, whether you want a board member or if there's a staff recommendation, Mr. Barry.
Staff does not have any recommendations, sir.
Is any board member interested in serving on it? They meet the fourth Monday at 1 o'clock.
Yeah, I can do that.
You say you do.
I'll make a motion to appoint Mr. Smith, Mr. Chairman.
I'll
I have
second.
a motion and a second to appoint Jamie Smith to the Mount Rogers Community Service Board. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mount Rogers Planning District Commission. They meet the first Thursday at 7 p.m. I think we need two, Mr. Barry.
Yes, Mr. Bill Dixon has moved out of state. We need to replace his position. I don't have a name, I don't know if anybody else has a name, but I'll be glad to try to work on that if need be.
I don't mind being reappointed, I'll do it.
I'll make that motion.
One second.
Have a motion and a second to reappoint me to the Mount Rogers Planning District. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mount Rogers Planning District Commission Transportation Technical Committee, Mr. Kempster, is currently serving. I believe he is eligible for reappointment and would like to be reappointed.
I'll make that motion.
One second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Barry, do we even have a mountain cat program anymore?
Yes, Mountain Cap no longer runs Head Start, but there is still a Mountain Cap program. It's worked on several things, weatherization is one of the projects they still continue to work on. But we do need two members there. Ms. Reed sort of filled for a financial position previously. I don't have any recommendations, and I've not had a chance to talk to them. I can work with them. They've got sort of some guidelines and people that are supposed to fill certain categories. And, you know, they vary from counties to who they fill, and I can check with them and see if there's any vacancies. If no one has a name, I can see if they need financial or they need something else in the process.
So you just want to skip that one?
I would recommend the board members' appointment to that, if a board member is interested.
They meet the third Tuesday, 6 to 6:30 p.m.
I'll make that motion.
Have a motion for Mr. Cook, have a second.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? New River Community Corrections Board, they meet twice a year.
That Al's on first.
Just one time, thank you. I'm currently serving, I don't mind being reappointed to that.
I'll make that motion.
I second.
Motion is second, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? New River Highlands Resource Conservation and Development Council, Mr. Chris King.
I recommend reappointment of Chris King and John Hufford, Mr. Chairman.
I make a motion that we reappoint Mr. King and Mr. Hufford.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? New River Mount Rogers Workforce Development Area Consortium Board. We don't have anybody that's up, so we don't need to take any action, correct?
That's correct.
New River Regional Water Authority, Mr. Bear, we need one member. They meet the third Tuesday at 10 a.m. Third Thursday. Thank you. Mr. Terry?
I'll do
you
it. I can do it.
I see you guys. Mr. Terry did a motion,
I make that motion.
have a motion, second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? New River Valley Criminal Justice Services Board, currently the sheriff's up for reappointment. I'll make a motion that we reappoint the sheriff. Well, let me withdraw that motion. I don't mind serving on that unless somebody else wants to.
I'll make a motion, we appoint the sheriff and you then.
A second.
Motion is second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? New River Valley Regional Jail Authority. I don't mind serving on that. I've got experience in jail. Working. Have a motion, by Mr. McRoberts, have a second.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We do have an alternate to the Regional Jail Authority. It's Mr. Bear. I'll make a motion that we reappoint Mr. Bear as the alternate to the Regional Jail Authority.
A second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Planning Commission, District 3, which is Mr. Smith.
No forward.
Do what?
Oh,
Or-
District 3 is Ms. Lawson.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I thought we were doing the personnel committee.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I've got two lists.
Yeah, I know, you're fine.
You need to get the right one.
Personnel Committee's board appointed Mr. Smith, Mr. Cook, and Ms. Lawson. Now the Planning Commission.
Yeah, I'm District 4. I'm working on someone right now. So I don't have a final answer just yet.
Mr. Cook, do you have some more?
Gary Beamer.
I'll second that. Have a motion and second to appoint Gary Beamer to the Planning Commission. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mr. Chairman, I was going to go ahead and,
Yep.
I would like to appoint Robert Epperson for, instead of Mr. Lionheart.
What was the last name?
Robert Epperson.
Epper. Have a motion to appoint Robert Epperson. To have a second. Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Horning.
I haven't spoken to Mr. Midkiff, but I would presume he would be okay with being reappointed, so I will make that motion.
And I'll second. Have a motion and a second to appoint Mr., or reappoint Mr. David Midkiff to the Speedwell District. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Terry.
I make a motion that we retain Mr. Wilson in that position. I think he's going to reserve. I haven't heard a confirmation, but when I talked to him earlier, he was in agreement to serve again another term.
I'll second that motion with Mr. Doug Wilson. Have a motion and a second, any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Recreation Commission, Mr. Eric Melton in the at-large position.
I have not got anybody at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Set-off debt collection hearing panel, Mr. Barrett.
At this point in time, I would recommend appointing Kathy Vault, Steve Lester, and Terry Montgomery to the committee. And I will, actually, if you want to wait, Ms. Gwen is sort of checking with everybody on it to see. I know Mr. Newberry has come off all of his things. It's not critical that we appointed right now, but we do. She is doing a lot of debt set-off and may have a hearing panel that would need to meet. So if you want to just wait for the day meeting and then make certain that she's confirmed with all of that. I'm sorry, I know I have to say that 100 times this year. To the fourth meeting, the second meeting, the fourth Tuesday, we'll have a list of names at that meeting.
All right, Social Services Board, they meet the fourth Wednesday at 2 p.m. We need one member. And I don't mind going.
We'll make that motion.
I will second it.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Southwest Virginia Emergency Medical Services Council, Mr. Jackson, I assume he's interested in reappointment.
I believe that he is.
I'll make a motion, we reappoint Cody Jackson. Have a motion and a second, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The County Committee, will retreat, will be myself and Mr. Horny. Town and County Committee for the Town of Redfield will be Ms. Lawson and Mr. Cook. The water, excuse me, Water and Wastewater Committee, is chair appointed, Mr. Horny, Mr. McRoberts, and Mr. Cook. And with Grayson Regional Library Board is board appointed, we need one member. They meet Thursday at 2 p.m.
I'll do it.
Nominate Mr. Terry.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Barrett, yes, I have a good community.
I agree, Mr. Chairman. I believe that does have all of them except the ones that we have indicated that we will be skipping. The, just on, committees, The Water and Wastewater Committee would regularly meet next Tuesday at 9:30 a.m. And the Budget Committee would meet next Thursday at 4 p.m. I would like to have a Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting also next week. Don't know if, typically they're usually the first Tuesday morning of the month is Buildings and Grounds Committee. Don't know if you want to do it next Tuesday at 8 a.m. or Thursday at 8 a.m. or Wednesday at 8 a.m. for that matter.
Mr. Cook, what's your,
That would do Buildings and Grounds at 8 and then Water Committee at 9:30. You can wipe both of them out in the same day if that would work. Okay.
Mr. Brower, what time did you say the budget committee?
Budget Committee typically has been 4 p.m. on the fourth Thursday.
Thank
Mr. Chairman, can we go back to the Apex? Since we still have one opening, I forgot there was two other names that I had been given. One of them I'm pretty sure y'all would not agree with too, and that's Buddy, reappointing him. And the other one would be Billy Ballard.
Is there a conflict there at all? Probably not, right?
Not a direct conflict, but it's Buildings and Grounds, which falls under the county. So he has to oversee from the county side. It would probably be best not to appoint Mr. Bowers in that position with his Building and Ground position. Did you agree, Mr. Farley?
I agree.
Billy would do an excellent job at it, but with him having to oversee the grounds from the county side of it, it would create an interesting dynamic there.
Those were just names that had come to me, and I wanted to put them out there for what they were worth.
anything else, Mr. Barrett?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman.
I think we skipped one that, didn't we? That you were out on the source conversation, we were open.
No, we appointed.
All right, moving on to the agenda, parking ordinance update.
Mr. Chairman, we had, it had been requested by the board that I provide some information about a parking ordinance in the past. I did not complete that memo in order to get it in the board package. I emailed that to the board members, I think Monday. And so I provided a memo which basically says, yes, the county can pass a parking ordinance and assess fines. And I believe if my memory serves me correctly, there was an issue with trucks, tractor trailers parking on Gator Lane, as well as maybe an entrance to the Apex Center, and either being partly on the road or people just didn't want them there. So the memo kind of describes you can pass an ordinance. The ordinance needs to designate where the no parking is and probably post the fine of whatever that fine is that the board chooses to assess. And probably ought to talk to the sheriff about enforcement and VDOT about placing the signs. I doubt you would have any problems with that issue, but it would be good to talk to them, maybe have some input from them. I would recommend you send it to a committee and let them look at the draft ordinance and see if they want to make changes, if they want to recommend it or not recommend it. But it's the board's pleasure as how they would like to proceed.
Mr. Barrett, which committee would you, building and grounds or?
I think Buildings and Grounds would probably be the best committee for that, Mr. Chairman.
Does anybody else have any comments?
No, I mean, I just know If you ride out there today, you'll see where the side of the road is just destroyed, where they just fixed it. They had the barrels up.
And that was the point that I wanted to address, because I know that over the years, I know the sheriff's office has written hundreds of tickets up there for failure by a highway sign, which carries a $30 fine, and it's not curtailed it. And whether the county has to fix the pavement or VDOT has to fix the pavement, the county fixes the pavement, it definitely comes out of the county fund. If VDOT fixes it, it comes out of their fund, and they've got allocated to Witt County. So, the town of Winsfield several years ago strengthened their ordinance, in working with the owners of the Walmart and Lowe's parking lot. And once the word spread that it was I want to say $100 fine.
75 was probably.
I think private was 75. They sent me that sheet today, and I can forward that on to the board, what the town's fine sheet is.
But we'll refer to the building around it and give everybody time to look at it. And, go from there. Right now, I know they've got construction barrels set up down there.
Well, they came and removed some toward the top, up next to Sonic, and it's destroyed
And
today.
it's well marked. I mean,
Right.
I don't know, I've never counted no parking signs. I don't know if it's there. I mean, there's no less than 15 out there. It is what it is. Anything else under new business?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman. I would ask,
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I have something under other.
On
the Hamilton's Knob Tower site. So I spoke to the representative from East Tennessee Natural Gas, who the county has been in discussion with a long time. There's a tower site there that needs upgraded to better communication, to improve communication system for emergency responders. And we finally got them talking to us after a long time. So they've agreed to give that site to the county. The representative I spoke with indicated that they're on board with the draft deed I'd sent them before. They have some language changes, maybe the notary clause, some change to that deed indicating the deed was deeded in 1964, so the entity that owns the land has changed by secession, like another company takes over or whatever. So that language needs to be added. The request I have of the board today is that if the form is approved by the county attorney and the owner executes the deed to convey the land to the county, that you authorize Mr. Bear to sign the deed accepting that small tract of land for the tower site on behalf of the county.
entertain a motion to authorize Mr. Bear to accept the executed deed from the company.
So moved.
Have a motion and a second, any discussion? Here, we're gonna do a roll call vote. Mr. Terry?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0. Anything else, Mr. Carter?
No, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Bear, going back on the regional board package, we did have a request for appointment on the Regional Preparedness Advisory Committee.
yes, sir.
If you will,
Yeah, Mr. Crawford has been working on that, and this was not on the normal list of appointments because this is new. But basically, you've got a recommendation from him to request that he be appointed as our primary representative and Ms. Darlene Lang as our secondary representative on the Regional Preparedness Advisory Committee. And I would recommend those appointments.
entertain a motion to appoint Mr. Curtis Crawford and Ms. Darlene Lane.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chair.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Mr. Bear, I will say that this is for interoperability coordinator's office. I hope they continue to address our local operability problems. Anybody else?
No, I agree with you. We need to focus on what's going on here local.
That being said, take a roll call vote. Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Aye.
No,
Aye.
Motion passes 6 yea, 1 nay. Anything else under new business, Mr. Barrett?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman, I do not have anything else under new business. I would request that you all add one additional closed meeting item in addition to discussion of prospective industry under A5. I would recommend also adding A7 discussion with legal counsel.
Entertain a motion to go into closed session under Code of Virginia, Section 2.2-3711, Section A5, discussion of prospective industry, and A7, discussion with legal counsel.
Mr. Chairman, and for legal counsel, I would say for review of performance agreement, to list what they're going into closed session for that matter. Thank you, sir.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Now in closed session. Have a motion to come out of closed session.
Make that motion, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. McRoberts, will you read the certification?
resolution, certification of closed meeting, whereas the Worth County Board of Supervisors has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and whereas Section 2.2, 3712 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by the Worth County Board of Supervisors that such a meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now therefore be it resolved, the Worth County Board of Supervisors hereby certifies that, to the best of each member's knowledge, 1, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which this certification resolution applied, and 2, only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the Worth County Board of Supervisors. Don't we read those right there?
Accept the motion to ratify the resolution.
So moved.
Have a motion, have a second.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Do a roll call vote. Mr. Taylor.
Aye.
Aye.
Sorry,
All right. 7, do you have any informational packets? Anybody having discussion about the information contained in that? I haven't got this there.
Mr. Chairman, I would recommend, request that a motion to approve 2 performance agreements with the Tobacco Regional Revitalization Commission, contingent upon agreement with the town of Whitfield,
I'll make that motion.
and authorize county administrator to sign.
Not for us, county administrator to sign.
Have a motion, have a second.
A second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, do a roll call vote. Mr. Smith?
Aye.
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 Motion passes 7-0. Anybody, any supervisor have anything to discuss?
Yeah, I had a resident from Grouse Ridge call, and they were wanting an update on the Grouse Ridge project.
the, spoke with VDOT, Monday, I guess it was, maybe Friday. Basically, the Pam Heath had checked with the gentleman with the Attorney General's office. Their information has gone back to the natural gas company. They are waiting to hear from the natural gas company. I called Mr. Phillips, who was my contact with the gas company, and also forwarded him that email. He sent an email back and said that he was contacting his legal counsel to see what it was. I also talked directly with Mr. Andy Fowler to see if there was anything at all that could be done to speed up the process, or at least get part of the road under construction. At this point in time, his hands are tied and he cannot do anything. I have requested and scheduled a meeting with the district administrator to come up here, but unfortunately, due to his schedule, he's a couple weeks out before he will come up here and meet with me. But I do hope that we have it resolved before then, but I have gone to the district administrator to see if there's anything we can do there as well.
All right, thank you. I also have a couple more as well. So I did have to get a phone call about Orion Drive, especially after the most recent rain. It's in pretty bad shape. So I don't know if there's something we can do. I know it's a private drive.
Mr. Chairman, I'll be glad to answer on that one. We did apply for it for revenue sharing. It is an application that is in to VDOT, and we should know by July if it qualifies for revenue sharing. In the meantime, I have contacted the property, changed hands. I have a letter on my desk from the attorney with the new company that has indicated their willingness to work with us to guarantee whatever right-of-way is needed to satisfy VDOT's requirements there if we do get approval for the revenue share. So hopefully by the end of this fiscal year, we will know if we've been approved for revenue sharing.
Good, thank you. And then Major Grams, are they going to start the next phase of that now, or are they going to wait for the spring?
It'll probably, I don't know. VDOT should be here at our second Tuesday meeting. And I will send them a question about that to see when they will start the next phase of the Major Graham project. Typically, it is spring when the asphalt plant opens back up.
Okay. And then the last thing for the people that's on the water committee, Gunton Park and Pepys Ferry, if we can get those folks water, I'm sure they would appreciate it. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Hood?
I have no.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Baird, did everyone get the census flyers or just me?
Just you had asked for those. I just wanted you to see those. And Ms. Castle has those, but she was out today as well. If you have any feedback, let me know. Any recommendations, and we'll be working on getting those out to various places.
I think they're really good. Just to kind of fill everyone else in, the planning commission's kind of been working with I guess it's a census board. They put a board. There's a board of people put together throughout the community, and they kind of report to the planning commission. And they're basically trying to get out for every one person who does not fill out the census an average of $2,000 per year's loss in funding to the locality. So we're trying to really help people understand how important this is for our community to actually fill out the census. So the planning commission tasked Blake with kind of trying to get some of these flyers together so that we can get them on social media. And if you have anywhere once they're complete, anywhere you can put some or any ideas would be great. So tell Blake I said thank you for these. They're really nice. That's all I have.
Mr. McCraw?
I don't have anything.
Mr. Horn? I don't have anything at this time. Mr. Terry?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I was approached and had some discussions with two departments within the county, the Commonwealth Attorney Office and the Sheriff's Office. There appears that there's a pretty serious need for a tech support person. I think Maggie was promoted, so they're without any kind of tech support down there. I know it's not budget time, but there's a need, and I don't know if there's any way to try to get those guys and gals some help.
I didn't hear what you said.
I'm sorry. I had some discussions.
Higher you
Yeah.
put your microphone, the more it
And there needs some.
Is that better? Sorry, Mr. Cook.
Yep.
I had some discussions with the sheriff's office and the Commonwealth Attorney's office, and there's no technical support folks down there, IT people, and there's, obviously, I think the sheriff's office probably has more computers than anybody in the county, and I think there's a need to try to see if we could find them some help from an IT. They lost their IT person. She got promoted up to a different position, so they are currently without anybody in IT down there.
Mr. Barry, county IT person, he, since January 1st, he's full-time.
He is full-time, yes, sir. Mr. Southers, I spoke with him week before last, and he is to come in and talk with me as well of his future plans and all of that.
Anything else, Mr. Barry?
No, sir, that's all at this time, Mr. Chair.
I've got one thing, and I spoke to David about it, and I spoke to a couple of you guys about it. I would like the county to consider, I guess you would call it economic development campaign. If anybody has any suggestions, I come up with the logo of made with pride. You know, the 2 years that I've spent on the board, we make a lot of really interesting stuff in Wake County. We have some really talented craftsmen, machinists, different types of laborers, and I think we should be proud of that. And I think if we start this campaign, and David said that he would get his assistant,
John.
John Matthews.
John, to draw up some logos. And it kind of goes back to, you know, the town of Whitfield started their campaign several years ago. You know, Whitfield, there's only one, and it's a conversation starter. And, you know, if we have a logo made with pride, of course, with spelled W-Y-T-H-E, you know, places that we go or places that David goes, of course, David's selling the county anyway, and maybe get some of the existing businesses on board, industry. Because no matter what these citizens think about the county, whether they get mad when they pay that water bill or pay that property tax, if they work here and they manufacture something, they should have pride in it. And I think the quality of the products that leave this county every day shows that they do have pride. So I just think it would be a positive way to kick off, you know, 2020. You know, I don't know what it would cost to start this, but, you know, if y'all have any suggestions, feel free. That's something I'd like to see us do in the next couple of months.
Sounds like a good idea.
I like that thought.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Mr. Barry, you have anything?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman, that's all.
Mr. Farley?
I do not have anything.
Ms. Collins?
I would like to get y'all started on that meeting, y'all have a few minutes. And then I also wanted to note, I didn't bring it up here in the rules of procedure, but, when the original board appointed me as the clerk, it was brought up about, my life outside of the 8 to 5. And I know now we're having a meeting with them at 6 o'clock. I will probably have to have a colleague fill in on the meetings. I do like the 6 o'clock time change as far as the 7 p.m. to 6. But some of the meetings, I've already noticed I've got conflicts with my kids' sports, so that's a priority for me. So I just wanted to put that on and you guys be upfront.
I don't have a problem with it. It's definitely one of those things that I know your kids are at age where they're involved in a little bit of everything, so, I won't speak for the whole board, but I'm sure we can work around it.
I completely understand.
Yeah, I agree.
That's,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. We gotta
Family.
do our few kids.
Yeah.
family first.
Smart. I consider I only got about 5 more years with them in school, so, and if I just
Enjoy it.
get in school sports, I just had to run get Jesse while I was in this meeting, basketball practice, he's waiting on me in the car. I appreciate y'all, trusting me to be the coach, and I'll do what I can to be here.
Just remember that when the budget comes around. We trust you. Give us nutrition.